What's going on, everyone? So, season 3 has really built up Fatima and her pregnancy. And more likely than not, or at least I hope, we're going to get the conclusion of that at the end of this episode, or at some point in this episode. But by the end of the episode, I'm hopeful that it's done, it's resolved one way or another, whatever ends up happening, whether she gives birth to the baby, which appears to be the case. We did get the trailer for episode 10, and it appears that she, or at least it looks like she's giving birth. Now, we have seen Boyd prevent things, right? Like the music box curse, right? He was able to stop it. He was able to get over it. All the people are having, Freddy Krueger show up in their dreams, and he was able to prevent it. So could it be something where Boyd and Ellis come in to save the day at the end? I would be very upset if that happened, right? Just because you've built this up for so long, which is fine, right? But you got to have the payoff, right? You got to have a monster baby. You got to have some big, crazy reveal in this, right? Where it's just this monster baby. I've talked about, because her pregnancy has really expedited through, drinking blood and whatnot, does that mean that the baby will be expedited as far as growth goes, right? In hours, will the baby be fully grown, or in days, right? Or will we see kind of a little monster baby running around, right? Just because we haven't seen something like that, like a kid monster. I mean, obviously the boy in white people have their thoughts on whether he's evil or not, but I'm talking about the vampire-esque type monsters that we have seen. Just because we haven't seen a baby version of that, or a kid version of that, doesn't mean that there never was one, right? They can obviously add that in. So I'm really curious to see how this storyline kind of lines up, takes place, and finalizes. Because I do want this, I hope this isn't something that drags on in the next season, right? I think that this is something that they need to resolve. And then obviously, because now we know we have confirmation for season 4, that they're probably going to set up and establish a storyline to move into season 4, which is great, which is fine. But what's going to happen with Fatima is the question. So again, in the trailer, it appears that she is giving birth. And then you also see what appears to be all the monsters kind of gathered around. Now, again, I say appears to be because we don't know, it's not you're watching a full scene. It's just little cutaways. They can, do different things to make you believe one thing and then another thing happens. But I do think that makes sense. I do think that lines up, right? If she's giving birth to a monster baby, the monsters are probably going to be hanging around. Monsters are probably going to be there while she's giving birth. And so the question for me is, does Fatima make it out of this? Right? One, if she's laying there after just giving birth, she's kind of just monster food at that point, right? So do the monsters just, have a feast? Or are they distracted by the baby? Does Boyd and Ellis come in right in the nick of time and save her? Does the baby, the monster baby, right? Is she the sacrifice to the monster baby, right? Does the baby end up just like how she needed to drink and was drinking Elgin's blood in order to have the baby grow and get bigger inside of her, so that way she could, give birth to the baby? Does the baby need to eat her to become fully grown? Is it something like that, to where maybe, the baby eats Fatima or goes and drinks Fatima, whatever, how they end up doing it, and then the baby becomes fully grown? Right? Is that kind of a ritual thing where, that's how you end up getting a huge, full-grown sized baby monster? But there are obviously several ways that she could die. Also, could she just die from the birth? Is the pregnancy kind of a natural pregnancy? Right? I got to be careful how I phrase things because YouTube, but is it a natural pregnancy, or is it something where the baby literally digs out of her, right? Like Alien, right? Think of Alien, and it comes out of the stomach or the chest, right? Is it something like that? And we just see Fatima just literally just get, baby pops out of her stomach, or is it something where it's kind of this natural birth? I do think, just because Boyd is like the hero, and he's the guy that always comes in at the right time to save the day. Again, at the end of the day, it's still a show. It's still, you got show logic, movie logic, right? I do think that we're probably going to see Ellis and Boyd show up at some point and save the day. I do think, like, if I had to kind of pace it, right? I think, because Elgin already seemed really shady, and Ellis clearly was picking up on it. So I could see where they end up, either Elgin just caves and tells Ellis, because you could see in the last episode the kind of just wait on him to kind of feel like, man, like, am I doing the right thing, right? Like, it really felt like he was about to tell Ellis. Does he finally cave and tell Ellis? Do they end up going and convincing him? Do they interrogate him? Do they, Batman Joker him in the interrogation room? Like, I could see something like that. They get the information that they need, or maybe Sarah, hears the voices again and she gets the information that they need. And I can see Boyd and Ellis kind of trekking along to go to Fatima. And I think that she'll give birth. All the monsters will be there. They'll probably be distracted with the baby. And Boyd and Ellis will be able to come in. I'm sure that they're not like, oh, here's our chance to kill all of them. Like, they'll probably won't care, right? Because it's kind of the monsters thing. And they don't want to kill Boyd, right? They want to break Boyd. So I could see something where, it's like, okay, they grab Fatima, they go to run out of there, and the monsters now have their baby, and they're all happy and good. Fatima survives, but she's obviously traumatized, and that I could see kind of leading into next season. And then Ellis is, he's got to deal with that, and you have their struggles and their relationship, and how does that impact Fatima, right? Does that completely break her? And now Ellis is distracted, and that distracts Boyd, right? Like, it's kind of my guess. I think they'll figure out one way or another, get the intel, whether it's through Sarah or Elgin or, maybe the boy in Wyatt or something like that. Somebody will come out of left field and be like, oh, Boyd, he's in here, right? Or maybe somebody will finally stumble across her, right? Like, obviously the kimono lady was, covering Fatima's mouth and stuff, and the kimono lady's trying to prevent anybody from finding Fatima. But, like, you had Victor right there. Like, literally right there. And then, on top of that, you had Julie and Tabitha ending up being right there. But now they're distracted, so they're probably not going to hear that. They're probably not going to be involved in that in any way. So, I'm very curious to see, like, how do they find out? But I do think that they ultimately find out. I do think that, Boyd and Ellis, or just Boyd, right? I could see Boyd being like, Ellis, no, you can't go. You got to stay back. Dangerous, whatever. Or if I fail, then you can go and you know where she's at, so you can try to go get her type thing. Would they actually kill Fatima is the question, right? Would they actually go that far to kill Fatima? I wouldn't be shocked, right? It is a horror show. But I think Fatima will end up surviving, right? Like, I'm really 50-50 on it. And I've talked about this before. Like, I do think that there is a real argument. I think story-wise, it would be better if she died. Because I think now Ellis, like, how does that impact Ellis? How does that affect Ellis? Does Ellis break? Is that end up... Because I've talked about how do you break Boyd, right? You break him by breaking Ellis. If you break Ellis, now Boyd is distracted. Right now, I mean, Boyd even talked about it in the previous episode, right? Like, did this happen to Fatima because of me? And look, I'm over here like Gimp, and, he's distracted. He's not... All these other things are going on that he usually has a hand in, or at least has knowledge of, right? And the town is kind of in shambles, right? I mean, you even saw, like, when Donna told Boyd, they don't believe in you anymore, right? Like, you see the break in Boyd. You see the, like, that's his mission. That's his goal. That's what drives him, is getting everybody out, being the guy, right? Being the leader of this town. He's talked about it multiple times, and the decisions he has to make and the things he has to do, but he's the one that's willing to do it. And if you kill Fatima and you break Ellis, Now Boyd has to be the one that has to be there to pick up the pieces. Now Boyd is distracted and focused on everything but getting the people out of town. So I do think story-wise, killing Fatima just makes far more sense than otherwise. But I can see them keeping Fatima around and kind of having the aftermath effects of like, okay, how does this impact Boyd? How does this impact Ellis? How does this impact Fatima, right? Fatima is not going to be her sane self and what that, right? Like, that's kind of my thoughts in that regard. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that she dies? Do you think that she lives? Do you want her to die? Do you want her to live? No, how do you think that this kind of plays out? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.